Chapter 9. Parked cars lined the street. Not a person in sight. This was a perfect opportunity. Coming up alongside a black SUV, Finn grabbed the handle and tugged. It opened easily. He slipped inside. Outside, Teague stood watch while the others paused farther down the road. The car reeked of cheap air freshener and stale smoke. Finn rifled around, searching for anything of value in the console. He found a $10 bill, a disposable lighter, and some CDs. He pocketed the money in the lighter. As he reached over to open the glove box, he glanced out the window. Aside from his friends, the street remained empty. The glove box contained a car manual and charger cables for a ridiculous number of devices. Why so many of these stupid cords? How many devices do you need? He wondered. After one more pass to be sure he missed nothing, he climbed out of the car and closed the door. As they strolled down the street, he tried the doors of 2 other vehicles, both locked. The next car they came upon was a red sedan. He glanced around, making sure there was no one around. Then he hopped inside. A cheap plastic dream catcher and Mardi Gras beads hung from the rearview mirror. He pulled them down and tossed them aside. Next, he opened the console. Jackpot, a $20 bill, just waiting for someone to take it. He never understood why people left cash in their vehicles like this. Oh well, all the better for him. He stuffed the money in his pocket. Digging around a little deeper, he found a pill bottle. He emptied the contents into his palm. 2 pink allergy pills, orange painkillers, and some unidentified white pills. He popped 2 of the orange pills into his mouth and pocketed the rest, then tossed what remained over his shoulder into the back seat. Back in the console, he found a gift card for a coffee shop. Flipping open the ashtray, he found a small disposable lighter on top of a pile of coins. He dumped the contents on the passenger seat and sifted through, gathering all the quarters, dimes, and nickels, leaving the pennies. He pulled down the passenger visor, nothing. As he flipped down the driver's side, a photograph floated onto his lap. A young couple smiled up at him as they held their newborn baby in a hospital room, beaming, mom's hair in a messy hide bun on top of her head, baby swaddled in a light blue blanket, face frozen in a tiny yawn. The wholesome image was topped off with the dad hovering protectively over them both. He stared at the picture, then crumpled the photo into a ball and tossed it over his shoulder, onto the back seat. In the corner of his eye, he could see Teague shaking his head. Finn flashed a sheepish grin and shrugged. Teague wasted too much energy on the feelings of others. In Finn's eyes, if these folks didn't want someone like him to come along and take their shit, they should lock their doors. After one final look around, he climbed out and closed the door. They circled around the old stone courthouse. Small shops lined the street. A pizza shop, pawn shop, 24-hour diner, an old movie theater that had seen better days, 2 bars, and an old-time candy shop. Finn was excited to see that one. The clock tower chimed, echoing around the empty square. It was now 9 o'clock. They climbed up the giant stone steps of the courthouse and sat down under the shade of the covered landing. A cool breeze rustled the leaves of the trees. Across the street, a woman with long black hair, shaved on both sides, was busy placing a placard outside of the tattoo shop. Behind her, the light in the shop window flashed open. Finn pulled the gift card from his pocket and leaned over to River, wiggling the card in the air. "Oh my god, yes!" she said, smiling and jumping to her feet. He stood up and turned to Teague. "You coming?" "Nah, you go on. I'm just gonna sit here for a while," replied Teague, as he leaned back on the stone steps. "Give me an orange juice, though." "I'm with him," said Cash, "but I want a coffee." He leaned back alongside Teague. "Well, I'm coming," said Zach, as he got to his feet. Entering the shop, the smell of fresh coffee was overpowering. Trendy music played through the speakers. A gauntlet of empty tables stood against the brick wall on one side. On the other stood the service counter. Finn sauntered up and met the gaze of the clerk, who was busy wiping off the machines. "What can I get for you guys?" asked the young man. He had messy hair, tattoos, and ear gauges. The name tag pinned to his chest read Jackson. Finn smiled, handed over the gift card, and asked Jackson to check the balance. After confirming the amount, River and Zach immediately stepped forward to discuss their options. This allowed Finn some time to look around. To his left stood a long table covered in baskets, filled with various fresh-baked items, cookies, brownies, muffins, and bagels. The enticing aroma of cinnamon and chocolate wafted through the air. His mouth watered. He peered up at the counter one more time. River and Zach had Jackson's full attention. They appeared to have forgotten all about him. Craftily, He reached down and grabbed several treats, stuffing them into the pockets of his camo pants. This was the exact reason why he preferred them to plain jeans. He looked up one more time. Jackson was busy. Feeling confident that he wasn't seen, Finn walked to the refrigerator against the wall and pulled out a bottle of orange juice and a bottle of cold water. He stood there, feeling the cool air wash over him, wondering whether he could fit either bottle into his pockets. They were already too full. Anything more would not fit. He closed the door and returned to the counter. "Would that be all?" asked Jackson. "Yeah," replied Finn. Jackson smirked. "You, sure you don't want a few more baked items? Another brownie, maybe? Or perhaps a few more cookies?" He raised an eyebrow and stared at Finn. The candidness of the statement stunned him, like an electric shock down his spine. Heart racing, he made eye contact with Jackson, not sure what would happen next. To his surprise, the young man quickly winked and flashed a coy smile. "It's all good, man," he said. "I just wanted to let you know I saw you. You're good. Had I not just finished restocking that table, I wouldn't have known you lifted anything. Didn't even see you move, and I was watching for it," he smiled. Finn stared, unblinking, unmoving. "Seriously," said Jackson. "Relax. You've got some skills." Unsure how to react, Finn remained silent. "So, do you want anything else?" Finn slowly shook his head. "No, we're good." Behind him, River and Zach were silent. "I'll get your drinks," said Jackson, as he turned and began moving things around the machines. Finn kept a watchful eye while the barista went about his task of making drinks. His gut told him that Jackson was okay. His head was telling him not to trust this stranger. Pacing nervously, like a caged raccoon, it felt as though the whole encounter was taking forever. He wanted to leave the shop. Jackson finished the drinks and handed them over. Smiling, he held out a small, brown bag and filled it with cookies. Next, he reached into the tip jar and pulled out all of the bills and stuffed them into the bag, then handed it off to Finn. Not sure what to say, he cautiously took the bag. Whenever people were nice for no reason, it caught him off guard. In his travels, he had met plenty of these genuinely nice people, especially in these small towns. He should be used to it by now. But he wasn't. His instinctive distrust of outsiders ran too deep. "A couple blocks down Locust, there's a food cubby," said Jackson. "It's right in front of a daycare. You can't miss it. Anyway, there's usually canned goods and packets of dried soup in there for folks to take as needed. There's also a free library cubby on Elm." Apparently, Jackson was no stranger to drifters. Feeling a little more at ease with him, Finn nodded. "I'll keep those in mind." He reached out and shook Jackson's hand. "Thanks, man." "No worries, man," replied Jackson. "Take care." And just like that, the exchange was over. Back on the sidewalk, River leaned close. "That was super sweet of him, and he's kinda cute." "Yeah, he didn't have to do that with his tip money," said Zach. "I know, right?" said River. "Oh my god, Finn, you were like a rock standing there. You looked so calm after being called out for stealing. You were freaking inside, weren't you?" She laughed. Finn said nothing. He didn't listen to the rest of their conversation as they walked back over to the others. Lost in his head, he was busy recounting the whole event, trying to see if he missed some sort of trap that Jackson laid for him to fall into. River and Zach described the encounter in the shop while Finn pulled the items from his pockets and passed them around. "Playing it cool, huh?" whispered Teague. Finn sat down and sighed with a psh under his breath as he handed over the small bag. Teague peeked inside, pulled out the money, and held it up. "Do I even want to know?" Finn shook his head. "He's just a cool guy. At least that's how I read him, I think." Teague nodded and put the cash away. 3 hours later, the clock rang out 12 times. Cash jumped to his feet and hit Finn on the shoulder. "Let's go check out the rest of this podunk town." Finn stood up and straightened his clothes. "Who's coming?" River wrapped her arm around Zach's shoulder. "I think we're gonna see if we can't get some locals to donate to our cash reserves." Zach nodded. "Sounds like a solid plan." She walked over to the trash can and pulled out a small cardboard box. Flattening it out, she said, "This'll do nicely." "What's it gonna be today?" asked Zach. River shrugged. "We'll play it by ear. Let's set up across from the tattoo shop." Zach brushed himself off. "Wish us luck." "Good luck," was the collective, monotone response. Finn turned to Teague. "You coming with us?" "Nah, not this time," replied Teague. "I'll be here when y'all get back. Hey, Cash, try not to let him get his ass beat. I'm not up for anything strenuous today." He winked at Finn. "I'll do my best," chuckled Cash. Finn shook his head and rolled his eyes as he and Cash walked away.